Welcome back to Living Local. Our next guest is sharing his story of grief, self-discovery, and spiritual awakening with his new poetry book titled I Took the Wrong Path.
Please welcome to the show, Aubrey Barnes, aka Mr. Aubs. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you all for having me.
I really appreciate it. So tell us about your new book and where this inspiration came from.
Yeah, for me, just kind of going through the waves of grief and all that, I realized that like I needed something for myself. You know, when you're going through like stuff like that, whether it be anxieties and depression, like the poems first and foremost should be for yourself, and then like kind of going through this narrative and having other friends who lost brothers, cousins, fathers and mothers, it made it all the more kind of imperative to me that like this narrative could like help other people kind of heal and kind of like be seen in their grief, you know, and be understood. So that was inspiration.
Yeah, you know, and a lot of people, they usually choose like a chapter book to, you know, talk about these things, but you put together this collection of poetry. Why did you decide on that?
Yeah, I think just being someone who's like a literary artist, like I've written poems, prose, essays and stuff like that, there's just a language that poetry kind of speaks where like when you take in poetry, it just kind of like sits with you different from like from just sitting with a story that kind of just tells you about the narratives. When you're able to kind of write it in a poetic way, it just kind of like it resonates with you in a deeper and different way. So that's why I kind of chose to kind of go through with this kind of narrative and poetry.
Yeah, and it kind of gets you thinking.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's a very brave thing to kind of put that onto paper. I think a lot of us go through things very differently, but when you choose to put it down, but then share that with the world, that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And I think it is really, it's a great thing. So talk to us about some of the different emotions and themes that readers will find in the book.
Yeah, you know, just like obviously kind of like the feelings of like what grief has to kind of look like from my standpoint, where I've kind of like seen it kind of manifest itself. Where I've kind of had to learn to kind of like traverse through it. Like there's elements of that, but also kind of like going through the elements of like being outside myself. Because like when you have somebody who like passes, there's part of you that passes with that person, you know. So like you have to learn how to be a new person, and in that you're going to make mistakes, you know, you're going to do things outside of yourself. So a lot of that is also kind of a reflection of the elements of like how grief kind of like makes us outside of ourselves, but kind of like has elements of like giving ourselves grace in those moments and realizing like we're all humans just trying to like traverse this world in a way, and all we can do is grow. So those are the biggest elements in the book. And to give viewers an idea of what they can expect, you're going to read us a piece of work from your book. Yes, absolutely.
So what is that piece?
It's a piece called Villains. I wrote this after kind of like going through kind of like therapy with kind of like dealing with grief and just realizing like how kind of a lot of my childhood isms kind of like came into how I kind of dealt with grief in a way, and learning to kind of accept those childhood isms and still kind of just walk with those with grace and just growing from those. So it's kind of like a narrative explaining that.
Okay, all right. So we'll let you go ahead and take it away.
I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely. When I was a kid, I desired to be a superhero. Saturday mornings, I'd wake up in front of television inspired by how they saved the day. At school, I'd sketch pictures of them, dress up in their likeness for Halloween, wearing their capes so valiantly with bulletproof confidence. Strong-hearted on days that bullies turned crooks, reminding me that Superman wasn't black. And when we kicked off our playground game of make-believe, I'd raise my hands quicker than I did in classrooms when asked, all right, who wants to be Spider-Man? Batman, God, let's mix it up. Who wants to be Venom? Mr. Freeze? The Devil? To which hands dropped like third quarter grades. Hot-headed boys raising temper tantrums will pick to be the one that gets hated, killed, convicted. Because you see, as boys, we were always told to be the good guys, but we're never taught how to handle life when we have played the role of the villain. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And do you have a one-man show?
Yeah, well, that's usually how I kind of like just being a poetry performer, you know, like it's usually kind of just me and the stage and people, so like
that's great.
And
you do a lot of teaching too, so you're just used to that kind of performance.
That's other space of like of art, you know,
absolutely.
teaching and all that.
Absolutely.
So
and you know, what are you hoping readers ultimately take from the book?
Man, a couple things kind of come to mind. I think those who've never experienced grief it gives them a vantage point in which they're not really privy to, because a lot of people who kind of grieve, they kind of like are in their own silos, isolated, and kind of keep their thoughts to themselves. And like us on the outside, we don't know what the heck to kind of do. So I think it gives them a perspective of like understanding what that looks like, what that feels like, and giving a sense of grief. Giving a sense of grace to people in that space, but also for the griever, the person to understand that like they're seen. And they're accepted, and they're understood, and they can grow from where they're at. So those are two things I think I want people to kind of take away, that I kind of write in hopes that they are inspired by in a way.
Yeah, for sure. When and where, or when can we expect the book, and where can folks pick it up?
Yeah, so April 11th is when the book's going to be released, so literally next month. And I plan on partnering with a lot of the local bookstores I've partnered with in the past, the Figge Arts Museum, Brood Book, as well as like the Atlas Collective and all that. That's a newer one that I haven't really connected with and all that, but it's definitely going to be on a lot of the local spaces, but also available on our website as well.
Perfect.
Right, perfect. Well, Aubrey, it has been a pleasure.
Yeah,
so talented.
Yeah,
and thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right, for more information, you can go to MrAubs.com.
And we'll have all those details posted at ourquadcities.com.